Hello, it's Wednesday on Your View. Welcome to the show. I am Murayo Afolabi Brown. As always, I have the ladies with me. Hey, Bissy.
Good morning.
Oh, Biajalu, how are you doing?
How am I doing? We're all doing okay, I believe, with all the protests that's going on. Yesterday, I was just following up with everything that was happening on social media, on the streets, and I just realized that everywhere was practically blocked. There were some people, my friends, who had to sleep in their offices because they couldn't, they had to turn back.
I heard so.
And I'm worried that today may be worse because they had already slated the areas they want to. At a point this morning, I had to turn from the toll gate because it was already barricaded. Movement really
I heard they're
restricted
continuing to
today.
Thursday, but I can't confirm that, but I don't know. The process, I'm told, I have to get that story confirmed, but I was told that it's continuing to Thursday. But we'll see, maybe the response from the IGP, maybe that they'll back down. I'm not sure. We'll see how that goes. Nima, you were in traffic for a while today.
So I escaped an accident at Mile 2, just before like this truck fell with one car doing one way, ran into that truck, fell on some bikes. I didn't wait to see. We all started diverting towards Vega, towards Apapa to turn over to the other side of the express. And that side, if you're in Lagos making money from tankers, tippers, and all of that, and you're not complaining about that side of town, you're insensitive. And same goes to government. It's terrible. It's worse. I used to pass there as an alternative to the express in Mile 2, but it's worse now. It's a death trap. It's not somewhere to be. But I wanted to shout out to the Premium Times reporter that did the report, you know, that the script for Oloture is based on. Her name is Tobore Ovore. I want to doff my hat for you for taking such a risk. God bless you for bringing to the fore the issues that bedeviled an area I'm from. Thank you for bringing out those issues. God bless you. And I hope that she gets more reward for what she did. It's too big a risk for me. I won't even consider it.
That's a life story.
Yes,
Yes.
she went on that as, you know, as a reporter.
I know she was acknowledged in the movie, but the thing is that I read that story, and it was really, you could see the trauma she would have gone through being in that undercover assignment that she gave, and I think was is worthy to be praised. Definitely, you are right for us to recognize her.
She should be one of our heroes of the week.
Yes, she should.
How are you doing, Tokwe?
I'm good. I realize that we make laws to protect ourselves, but we should understand that the laws sometimes might be needed to be bent so that we can convenience ourselves. We mustn't be trapped by laws. So I hear stories of someone that had a miscarriage because she was trying to rush out of that estate, and they said they've locked that gate, and so she couldn't go in. She couldn't go out through the estate. So this was meant to protect us, but it causes harm for us. You can't go in through Okada, but somebody's having an emergency, and the person cannot ride an Okada through. When you know there's an emergency, you say the law says,
we should be flexible.
We must know that these laws we are creating for ourselves are meant to protect us, not to imprison us. So we must, people are law enforcers, right from security man to the police to military. This obey without complaint, this obey the last command. We must begin to see the reality on ground. This person is pregnant.
And I think,
so should I now say, the law says,
you should be flexible.
Save lives.
That happened even with when the protesters were detained, because when they arrest you, you need to get a shorty before you leave. And that's what they're saying, that release them unconditionally. But the police said, we have our process. They have to go and bring a shorty first, because if anything happens, which makes sense, but it's part of the process. And even the VP echoed something similar last week when he was saying that there are processes in place, but the truth is that if you think of the Nigerian people, some of these things are things that we can actually overlook. The bureaucracy is way too much within the civil service. That they say, we know you have to do this road, but to do this road, the process,
protocol.
Oh my Lord, and the people are still suffering on that same road. So there needs to be a systematic review of how we get things done across board. And I think that echoes through the entire network of the Nigerian system. Okay, today, as I promised you, we're going to be focusing on the root cause of the police, the Nigerian police force. What exactly got us to where we are? That'll be our focus today with our guest, Dr. Charles Omole. But first, we go through the front pages of the papers. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Okay, we're going to start with Daily Trust today. Daily Trust. Yakubu's fate hangs in the balance. That's INEC chairmanship. There's serious confusion in the commission. Senators, PDP, CSOs flay Loretta's nominations as commissioner. IG replaces ENDSARS as SWAT. Vigilante kills 14 Fulani in Katsina. The slave wives of B cave in Cross River. 34-year-old Nigerian in the race for governor in the USA. FG rejects debt relief offer. Senate confirms 8 nominees for Supreme Court justices. And IPPIS, FG considers ASU's request, subjects UTAS to integrity test. Okay.
So, finally, because we've not, the striking ASU have this issue they've been complaining about, that they shouldn't be placed on the IPPIS, and that they've domesticated a particular one called UTAS, which is the University Transparency Account System. Now, the Minister of Labour is saying that, Chris Nige is saying, we're not agreed to it, but we're looking into it. We're going to submit it to integrity test. He's also saying, after a meeting with the Senate President, said that it's been sent over to the technology, I want to have that right. He said it's been sent over to the Accountant General of the Federation, and it's also been sent to the National Information Technology Development Agency and the Office of National Security Advisors for a second look, that when they look through it and the system would actually has integrity, then we can.
Now that's government meeting us halfway. They are insisting on this, and I'm happy at least. Yeah, a little late, but at least it's
let's look at it. Let's look at it.
That's that is what we need to be hearing in the papers today, because because of these times, government must be seen to be meeting the people halfway. Okay, let's take one more story.
I wanted to take the federal government rejects, debt relief from
offer.
the World Bank. So according to the Minister for Finance, she said they've reviewed the terms for the debt relief and assessed what they owe, and they feel that it's not something they should accept. I think we should reconsider it very well, because we are in debt to the tune of 31 trillion. We should at least.
She said it's not closed, because I read the same story. She said they're not closed. It's not an option that is closed. They're still looking at it, but for now it is not a convenient.
Let's talk about the Nigerian that is about to be governor.
Yes, I'm excited about that. A 34-year-old Nigerian, Austin Chenge from Benue State, is in the race for governorship in the state of Michigan, United States. So he mentioned that he put this in March 2020. He'll be running for 2022, and he's going to be running with a U.S. representative, Lamar Smith, for the ticket under the Republican Party. They don't have the ticket yet, but at least they also have aligned all his achievements. He's someone who's gotten like 98.1 GPA in his work. Yes, no, not a student. So he was able to design a tricycle that they are using locally in that area, and so he's been recognized locally and internationally. I'm happy.
Moving on now to The Nation. Congratulations to him, and we'll hope for the good news soon. The Nation. Protesters adamant despite governor's approval of requests. IG summons ENDSARS operatives. SWAT now police anti-robbery squad. Federal government won't seek relief from the 31 trillion naira debt. Buhari governors lead tributes as JP Clark dies at 86. Opposition rejects Buhari's aides pick for INEC's job. Supreme Court now has 20 justices. Okay.
So President Buhari is a new commissioner for Delta State. Commissioner-elect for Delta State.
Commissioner-elect, be very careful.
So the president nominated his media aide, as the electoral commissioner for Delta State. This aide, her president, is, a card-carrying member of the APC, and she's presently...
she's a commissioner nominee. Let's be very clear.
Nominee. The role of that, that she's intended for, is supposed to be one of an arbiter. She's supposed not to be someone whose biases are very obvious.
Yeah.
If you know Loretta on social media,
everybody knows Loretta.
You know that her biases, they are like this in our face.
She's controversial. At this time, she's insulting. She even called a sitting senator a buffoon. Tweeted it, called a sitting senator a buffoon.
What is even more worrisome is that who are those advising our president? You see, in this time where there's tension in the land, we need to be careful. In this time that there's tension in the land, isn't it time for you to start big nomination form that of Loretta?
You think it's just
come on, man. Advise government
acting on his own.
I don't know your advice. It's you that we know.
Yeah, it's you we voted for.
At this point,
no. The major story, please.
This one, as Yoruba would say,
Can we take the major story?
Oh, please, my darling, I do apologize. Go ahead, please.
All right. So the IGP has announced that they're setting up a SWAT team to replace the defunct SARS. And he's also announced that all the members of the defunct SARS are going to be reporting in Abuja for evaluation and mental testing before they find a way to absorb them into the normal police routine. But that the training for this SWAT team is going to start, I think, this next week. They're going to be having training in different colleges of education across the different states. But protesters are upset about this. They tweeted all through yesterday saying that the SWAT team is just more like changing of name. So you're still going to use the same people that you have removed from SARS and put them in the SWAT team. That is not what we want.
So what we want is that they should say we're not going to put anybody from SARS into the SWAT team. If the government can say they won't do that.
It's even too early to have a SWAT team. Yes, it's too early.
It's a process. It's not magic.
Process.
So it's not like you just take away these ones and you
swap it.
Members of this SWAT team.
Listen to the government.
These members of this SWAT team, what is the training process so that we are sure that the people
start it next week. Listen to what the government is saying. So we've heard from what people are saying. What the government is saying is that there's a need for a tactical unit that will fight crime.
We know that.
And we can't have that lacuna. So now there's a SWAT team. This SWAT team will start being trained next week.
So the transparency Nigerians are asking for is that where did you get these guys from?
Exactly.
Are these the SARS? Who are they? Are these the SARS guys that were retraining? Or we just recruited people?
Yes. So they need to answer that question.
Clarity.
The government needs to answer that question. That these people are not SARS because we have issues.
But why the hurry? We still have.
There's hurry.
We need them.
Absorbing two other units. That's the question.
One at a time, please, so that we can hear each other.
Yeah.
Moving on to the punch. Soldiers confront protesters. NBA demand audit of SARS evil centers. 2 policemen, 9 others killed in Ondo, Ogun, Ekiti. Edo crashes. Security economy top agenda as NGF meets today. Court grants bail to man detained by IG's aid for 44 days. I wanted to read that story. Opposition groups kick as Buhari appoints aid INEC commissioner. And ASU strike Ngige foresees end. Team meets Senate on UTAS. Okay. Which story are we taking? This crash that happened, I mean, I didn't read this one, but I know that TVC crew were part of the crash that happened in the Akure, the expressway that had the 2 tankers colliding. And well, as the papers yesterday, 9 people had died, but we're getting more reports that probably more people have died. But our crew members were part of that. And we thank God we didn't lose any of them. The cars were total write-off.
They were
the
hurt.
trucks were terribly damaged. The people were hurt. We had one of our crew members had to have the brace on. One was, I mean, there were quite a number of casualties. So we thank God for their lives, but the truth is that we need more
response. Speedy response.
Aside from the response.
Not even the roads. We need the rails to be working because when you have tankers on the roads, that in itself is an anomaly.
I think we need all of them.
Yes. So the roads need to be widened.
Yes. The response rate to accidents. You can't avoid accidents, but if you have speedy response, the moment it happens, there's healthcare, there's a fire trucks to put out the fires. It will reduce the number of casualties because
the tankers
journey to the hospital
also need to be roadworthy. Some of the times they
don't even do road again.
Nigerian factors. There's so much to discuss.
Too much risk.
So I want to take another story quickly.
Please go ahead.
As a honorary member of Ogbomoso community, the governor of Oyo State has got to visit Seun. Seun's palace was vandalized during the protest when they brought in dead bodies for him to see, but it was heavily vandalized. I saw it myself. And what now happened is the governor has gone to visit, which is a good thing, and he has committed money to rebuild the palace. And also money has been given to the families of those that have lost their lives during the protests in Ogbomoso. And I hope that they also fund the police to ensure they are equipped to disperse crowd and not shoot live bullets into them.
Final paper is this day. Presidential panel accepts 5-point demand of #ENDSARS protesters. Outrage as president nominates partisan aide as electoral umpire. And Buhari Okowa Bobaseki mourn as renowned poet J.P. Clark dies. Okay.
Our heart goes out to the entire Niger Delta. J.P. Clark is a figure. I wish you would take the story because
I wanted to.
Please do.
I wanted to. So J.P. Clark's poems also, you know, kind of formed all of us, except she didn't do arts when we went to art. So it formed all of us growing up all the way to senior secondary school. And, you know, he's always stood out, never been a partisan member of the society, but always influenced positive morals in my region. So we will miss him.
We'll miss him really.
Okay, your region. Nice. It's the whole of Nigeria. Please leave that matter.
Let's claim it.
Okay.
That's how it starts.
All right, let's go on a break. When we come back, we'll discuss the Nigeria police architecture. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. So, for a week now, the hashtag ENDSARS protest continues in almost the entire state of the country. The president has spoken. The Inspector General of Police have spoken also. Some governors have also lended a voice. The leadership of the National Assembly have also added their views, including the distinguished Nigerians, but the protesters are persistent. Now, what is the way forward? How did we even get where we are in the first place? Joining us on the show is a security consultant, trainer, and strategist to businesses and governments across Europe, Middle East, and Africa. Our own Dr. Charles Omole, who is also a lawyer. Welcome to the show.
Welcome,
Thank you, ladies. Thanks for having me.
Dr. Omole, I'm going to try to have this conversation into the operational architecture of the police, the welfare, and also the way forward. And let's start with today's papers. I read that the president of the Nigerian Bar Association referred to the places where these people are detained as human abattoirs. Because in his own view, people have been detained wrongly, and they have been, many of them have died.
Many.
Now, my question to you, therefore, is how did we get to that point of force where we don't even try to engage, but we use force? How did we get here in the first place?
Well, I mean, one could pick any point as the divergent point in terms of history of policing in Nigeria, but the easiest that come to mind would be in 1966. Up until that point, Nigerian police was a preeminent security organization in the country. After the Ironsi coup, the military actually realized that the police was better than they were better. The police were present in every local government. They had the communication systems. And the Nigerian military was very small then, so they needed the police. So police was like the bride of the military at that point. And what happened was, in fact, I think there were a couple of police officers were even appointed into the military administration then. From that point onwards, I felt the police moved their eyes away from the citizenry and focused it on governance. From that point onwards, everything that happened to the police was now about preservation of government, not preservation of the people.
Wow.
So from that point, but sadly, what happened was they became a victim of their own decision, because there was a loss of complaints to the Ironsi government at that time. Because at that time we had 3 levels of policing in Nigeria. We had the Nigerian police force, we had the regional police, and then we have the native police. And the complaint then was that the native police and regional police were very corrupt. In fact, if you read the report and remove 1966 and put 2000, it looks like exactly today. So all the problems we're complaining about existed then. So Ironsi put together an expert panel, and the recommendation of the panel was that all the police should be merged into one. So by 1968, the native police, the regional police were all collapsed into the Nigerian police force. Now, the difficulty was that after the Civil War, the military were bigger. They had more equipment. So at that point, they decided they don't need the police anymore. So not only did they decide they didn't need the police, but the police now became a potential threat. So the implicit decision of the military was more or less to disempower the police. Because the police was the only organization with legitimate arms carrying power. And they were the only people that could stop any coup, potentially. So the less effective police were, the better it is for the military.
Right.
Wow.
So we had a long length of military, years of military regime that de-emphasized citizen-focused policing. Then to make matters worse, after the coup that killed Murtala Mohammed, the military, rather than look at itself and say, okay, our intelligence failed, they blamed it on the police. That why didn't you pick up there was going to be a coup? So what happened was the brain of the police, called the special branch, was excised away from the police and created into an organization called the NSO. The NSO is today's SSS. So which meant that capability was removed from the police. And from that year onward to date, there has been a progressive cannibalization of the police and its capacity. Lots of the duties that were police duties before, different agencies with different uniforms, with different everything, are now, you know, I think there are probably about 9 agencies that are doing policing-related duties. Now, this is the problem politicians have created. You know, the Nigerian constitution says there can only be one police in the country. But if it looks like a dog, barks like a dog, it is a dog. So which means, although they're not calling them police, if you are performing policing function, you are breaking. So technically, the Nigerian government actually, over the years, since 1999, have been breaking the constitution.
Interesting. Let's go on a quick break. I like the fact that you just laid the foundation. Now we'll now build on this and then layer it and see how we got to where we are. Let's go on a quick break. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. Yes, Busy had a question for the break. Go ahead. Please.
Yes, sir. So we had a guest on Monday, the former Commissioner of Police at Ebonyi State, and one of the things he mentioned was the fact that the police do not have as much, or are not given as little as stationaries and even money to get fuel, which is supposed to be in line with best practices, that they are supposed to have that. And he's traveled all around, and that is what happens. And it wasn't so 35 years ago when he was in that system. So my question to you is, what happened? At what point did we lose the focus?
Well, in terms of the resources available to the police, it is true that what we have in Nigeria today is policing by donation, not policing by government funding. I think, again, looking at the detailed analysis, I would say that probably the major key point was 1999. Because up until 1999, when Obasanjo came in as the president, we've had almost a decade of no recruitment in the police at all. And the number was roughly about 100,000 police officers. And that clearly was inadequate. So Obasanjo announced massive recruitment, 50,000 a year, new officers. But the problem with that is the funding that was made available to the police was only funding for salaries of those additional. So we moved from 100,000 to almost 300,000 police officers in 4 years. But then the resources available was only for the salaries. In fact, that massive recruitment exercise also affected quality of police officers. For example, all the police training colleges in Nigeria per annum have maybe capacity of about 13,000. Yet we're recruiting 50,000 annually. So how are you training them? So, you know, politicians make these statements, but the infrastructure that is needed to support it was not there. And then, you know, in 1999, the government also introduced what we call the envelope funding, which was a big problem for not just the police, but every other organization, which is, okay, we've approved 1 billion for you, for example, and then you say, okay, here's the 1 billion approved. So actually, here's 200,000. Go and start with that, come back later. And then you have a situation where by December of that year, maybe only 40% or 50% of your approved budget have been released. You know, allocated budget have been, you know, so we have a lot of funding issues, you know, with the police. And that, I think, is a major concern that has affected the quality of the life of the officers. They are not well looked after in terms of resources. And don't get me started on the welfare of the police.
We'll come to that.
It's a major issue.
We have to continue with that. The Police Service Commission was created to solve a major issue when people started clamoring for some of the issues and the bad welfare and working conditions of the police. Since the creation of the Police Service Commission, I would say that corruption just became, you know, a norm within the police. If, as a lawyer, to practice within Nigeria, you don't want to interface with the police. It seems we have 2 codes. So when you get to the police station, they have theirs. You, as a lawyer, you should feel ashamed to ask a client to come and mobilize the police. But you go there asking the client to come with money. even at the head of, the police force, you understand that and you expect them to come with money that you must mobilize. Bail is supposedly free, but you have to give the DPO something. Those were some of the shocks I got as a young lawyer when I graduated. And an IPO investigating a case will see an obvious case and take the side of one person against the other. So the highest payer might get justice.
Yes.
If the accused is the person that has money, that person gets to go free. What is the role of the Police Service Commission? And should they continue, to operate? Should they, if they are not serving us, should that agency continue to exist?
Well, the problem is the Police Service Commission was well intended, but it's structurally deficient. I mean, since its inception, for example, it's always tend to appoint ex-IGP as chair. For me, it's already a problem instantly, because the Police Service Commission is supposed to be some people that bring in fresh ideas, look at the same issue with a new sort of fresh pair of eyes. Yes. But when you bring an ex-IGP to do that role, it's more of the same, so to speak. And potentially, you're actually bringing people who potentially were part of the problem to solve it. So I would have said maybe somebody neutral should have been the chair of, Police Service Commission. Since its inception, but
Why not a different agency? Why not an agency? Someone to check, like for the NJC as against the justices, they sort of separates their roles clearly. The Police Service Commission is almost like just a branch.
You see, but the problem also, again, to be fair to the Police Service Commission, the challenge they also have is resources. For example, Police Service Commission, they don't have independent personnel to investigate anything. So if you complain to them, they have to tell the IGP to investigate on their behalf and report back to them.
So why are they paying them? What are they doing?
Well, the point, they don't have enough resources. They don't have independent investigators of their own to say maybe they will send their own men to go. They don't have that. So they rely on the police to investigate the police on their behalf.
Exactly. So we're already going into resources being part of the problem, obviously. And it is a major problem because one of the major issues people are protesting against, apart from the police brutality part of it, is the extortion by policemen. It's that we don't have ability to walk freely and walk up to policemen without feeling like I'll need to pay for the services I'm about to receive. And if I don't pay well, I won't get the service I need. And what can the legislature be doing towards solving it? Maybe you would want to start with explaining why that is, but obviously we know because they don't have funding. But what can be done? What should the protesters be saying to help address this part of they don't have enough money and they're always asking us, the citizens, to supply them money?
Well, I call that the economy of corruption within the police. The truth is, if the governors stop funding police and the private sector stop funding the police and all the extortion stops, Nigerian police can't last 3 days. It's as simple as that. They don't have the resources. So you have a situation where DPOs, repair police vehicles themselves. You have a situation where, the current one now is you have these new recruits into the police, which is happening right now as I speak. And, they've not been paid since, there's some kind of tough war between the police and the Police Service Commission on who has right to recruit. But the point is, these new guys now, so they now say, okay, you need to be put on the new payroll, federal government payroll system, which requires all the new constables to go to Abuja for verification.
Biometrics.
So how do they get to Abuja? I've heard some CPs levying their DPOs 30,000 each. They find 30,000 to give to each of these constables to be able to go to Abuja. And the DPOs, many of them have come back to me and said, where do I get 30,000 per constable from? You see, there are...
the root of the problem.
Yes. They need generator, they need fuel for the generator in the office. These things have to be funded somehow. Right. So there's a silent, almost cultural, unspoken, that money will have to come somehow outside the normal provisions.
So thank you for taking us there. So obviously we need proper funding for this group, for this organization. But however, I want us to talk a bit about the emphasis on muscle and not so much on the intelligence. Because when you engage the police, they automatically use force.
Yes.
And as a parent, you feel like proper investigation has not been done, that my child has been detained.
Yes.
Or how do I ensure that they're not incriminating my child for crimes he did not commit? So how did we move from use of force and not so much of intelligence?
Well, I mean, I've trained the police a few times on what I call intelligence-led policing. What we have in Nigeria is police-led intelligence, not intelligence-led policing.
Police-led intelligence.
Yes, it means the crime will have occurred first, then you get a suspect, and then you try to get intelligence from that suspect. That's police-led intelligence. Where intelligence-led policing means you preempt exactly, and prevent the crime in the first place. We don't have that capability in Nigeria. The problem starts with the training. The recruitment, major problem starts with the training. The training within the police is not professionalized. That's a part of the problem. You can be DP of Antoni today, and then tomorrow you get a signal moving you to police training college to go and start training. Oh yes, you can be more
necessary skills.
No. You see, the trainers are not trained properly in how to train.
teach.
Exactly. So you are the head of the training college today. Tomorrow you get a signal. You are now in mobile force. People are moved around. So whereas the training ought to be professionalized. So the training also emphasizes a lot of more muscle, less of brain, in terms of dealing with things. So, I mean, one of the capability we lack in Nigeria is we lack the capability of understanding the fact that you don't need to use force to get information out of people. There are ways of doing this, but...
Yeah, go ahead, Nima.
Okay, so I wanted, is this deliberate, to leaving the police like this, is it intentional? Recently, I think after the 2015 elections, President Buhari, sort of upgraded the status of the military, increased their pension, got gratuity for those who were part of the civil war in the Eastern. There was a clear, how will I call it, assessment and, reassessing the issues that concern the military. And then till date, we continue to have issues with the police. Some of the police recruits complain that they earn as low as 30,000. Some of them, DPOs, sitting DPOs, don't even get up to 200,000. And they have bills, like you mentioned, and somehow they have to give the young recruits targets. So you have to go out and find a way to get the money. For promotions, you have to pay. Some say, to change from a department to the SARS, this SARS that we're trying to close now, you have to pay as high as $500,000.
Yes.
So how do you raise these funds? How do you, how did we get it? Why did we leave that that arm of the society to deteriorate so bad?
Well, the challenge in terms of, to be fair to the government, the problem of policing was not created by this current administration.
No.
I think people are just venting. They are the ones in charge at the moment. So they are getting the tail end of a very long cacophony of frustrations from Nigerians. But, I mean, this government have passed the Police Trust Fund, which is very commendable. The new Police Act, which the President signed about 2-3 weeks ago, is a fundamental move in the right direction, because up until that signing 3 weeks ago, we were using the 1948 Police Act. I mean, which you ask yourself, we have had 20 years of democracy. Nobody thought of changing the 1948 Act for our police. So they've done some things. But the challenge with the police pay, for example, if you take police pay, is the current structure has to change if we are to remunerate the police properly. And a very good case study of that is what happened in Ghana. What Ghana simply did when this was going on was they created a new pay scale for their police, away from the normal, from everybody else. That the new scale reflects the risk they take, and they are paid accordingly. The challenge with the way things are right now is the police are hooked into the federal civil service structure. So you have a situation if government says, okay, we have 1 billion naira, we want to increase police pay by 20%. The military will start, say, hold on a second, we need to be paying we need to be paid more than the police.
It happens recently.
So if you are increasing police, you have to increase us too.
Yeah, yeah.
Then you have the labor unions will now come and say, okay, you know.
The police and all of us were buying from the same market.
Exactly. And before you know it, the pot government wanted to use to increase police money. It's completely, you know, so police need to be put on a separate pay scale. You know, that's best practice. Therefore, and they can be, their pay can be increased without anyone extrapolating across the board.
Exactly. I agree with you, sir. And okay, so I've heard a lot of people say that the anger we experience from the police most of the time is because a lot of them have these mental issues. They are not properly evaluated psychologically. Yes. But for me, I believe there's a thin line between hunger and mental illness. Because if you're constantly thinking of how to survive, you're going to definitely transfer that anger to any other person you see. Now, how, in terms of welfare, what do you think can be done for the police in such a way that we bring back dignity to that organization? Because I see police all over the world. They are well respected, they are well taken care of, and you see young people who are eager to join that force.
Well, I mean, in terms of police welfare, I mean, there are things that can be done officially by government. There are things that can be done by Nigerians. Okay. If I start with the latter first, in terms of Nigerians, Nigerians need to begin to respect the police officers more. I mean, so somebody said, how come you never have problem with the police? He said, because you know their bosses. I said, no, not every police officer I know their boss. But when you meet a police officer, he's been standing in the sun for several hours, carrying a gun. You went and we know, you don't, I said, good afternoon, sir, how you doing? You know, you don't say, why did you stop me? Or, you know, the kind of typical Nigerian reaction. Somebody, the guy said, I will show you. You know, and the point is, he can't show you if he wants to. But so a bit of respect. I mean, you have a situation where back in many countries, their police and security forces enjoy discounts in private sector outlets. You know, if you're in the force, you know, you give you special. They are giving some respect. But in terms of welfare of the police, I think, you know, the more resources need to be made available to the police. There's absolutely, you know, no doubt about that. You know, they need to be better paid, better remunerated. You can't give people guns the way it's done. You know, yes, and the other thing also in terms of gun in particular, two things. Number one, the police are not effectively given defensive weapons. What I mean by that is, you know, we have about 400,000 police officers, give or take. But in the inventory of Nigerian police, we have less than 15,000 bulletproof vests. So, which means only the very few of them that got the big people have the bulletproof vest. So the average policeman on the street doesn't have any protection. So the gun that's given to him that's supposed to be purely for offensive is now used for both offensive and defensive. So that is a fundamental problem. So if somebody is carrying a knife, for example, if you know you have, you know, a stab-proof vest on, you will shoot, you most likely will not shoot immediately. But when you know that there's nothing, so your gun becomes your response. So you know, welfare comes from not just pay and conditions, but also from equipment, which they grossly lack in the Nigerian police.
Let's go on a quick break. When we come back, we'll drive it more towards the recent pronouncement of SWAT as the focus. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. We still have our guest, Dr. Omole, here with us. Dr. had a question. Go ahead, please.
Yes, so Dr. Omole, I know that you've mentioned a bit during the program, and even when we've called you in, that you've trained some of these police officers. So it's not like they're not doing anything. And then we hear from some of their representatives that they fire a lot of people in between. A lot of people have been sacked for malpractices. So it brings me to the question of, if there is work going on, how do we let Nigerians know what is going on? If there's a bit more transparency in terms of, we've done this investigation, maybe there'll be like an annual report. What are the things that the police can do to increase our trust in their internal system of fighting the crimes? Also, when it comes to money, what can we do to be sure about how the money they get is being spent when I donate money to them as an individual?
Right.
Yes, I mean, part of the problem with the police in Nigeria, which one can say symptomatic of the rest of many African countries, is the opacity in the way they operate. Everything's secret, you know, lack of transparency. And I think that is a major problem that the police, they're not helping themselves with that. There should be, you know, every investigation there should be a public report about it. You know, we need to know what's happening. There should be a monthly, quarterly media briefing with the IG where people can ask any question. That should be a lot more accessible. You know, it's about the people. They should make themselves more accessible. You know, what I said earlier about the militarization of the police, an emphasis on muscle, means that it's not uncommon to see police refer to people like us as civilians, you know, which is a military term. You're a bloody civilian. And I said, you're a police officer. You know, in fact, in one of my books, one of my suggestions was that in many parts of the West, police are actually referred to as service, not force. So it should be Nigerian Police Service, not Nigerian Police Force. That word force re-emphasizes the militarization dimension of policing. So they don't, you know, so a lot of the time, therefore, that force mentality creates this, we need to keep this secret, you know, and there's a lot of good work police are doing, which they're not talking about, which we should talk about more. But we can't be more Catholic than the Pope. So they've got to help themselves in that regard as well.
Nima, go ahead, please.
Okay, so recently, in some of the reactions of police officers to protesters have been shooting. I wonder how they got there. Is there no training for them to use alternative means of defense, or do they lack such alternatives? What should be the way out for that? And then the protesters too, where should they take their protest to? I am of the firm belief that they should go to their houses of assemblies in their state, or the National Assembly. Only one person has been able, at least we've seen, only one lady has been able to take hers to the House of Reps, because these lawmakers are the ones who can help us get out of this. That's the way I see it. They're sitting comfortably now. We're attacking every office holder that is in the executive across states.
Well, in terms of weapons, the challenge is that the police officers in Nigeria are not well trained in terms of weapons. Let me give you a scenario. What happens is, as part of your police or your original police training, you are given weapons training. So you pass out, graduate as a constable. By police procedure, a constable is not allowed to carry weapons until you become a corporal. So from constable to corporal could take 5-6 years of working as a constable. So you get your promotion as a corporal, as you know, 6 years later, your DPO calls you and says, here's your weapon. So you are supposed to rely on the training you got 7 years ago to manage this particular, to now use the weapon. A lot, they are badly trained. I remember doing one of the training, one of the CP Lagos a few years ago was telling me that, oh yeah, I've had a negotiation with the army, you know, police can now use their shooting range. Then I said, that's not the solution. I said, you are not recertifying them. I said, so if I take 100 bullets to the range and I miss my target with all the 100 bullets, I can still carry my gun the next day. He said, yes. I said, then what's that? Whereas the best practice is to carry a weapon, you have to recertify yearly. And that has to be a pass mark, 90%, for example, if you know, before you are allowed to carry. That doesn't exist in the Nigerian police. So it's the training they got then in the police college. That is all they have. So a lot of the time, they are not accurate in their shooting. That's why you have accidental discharge and all these things happening. So training is absolutely paramount for the Nigerian police.
Okay, so thank you for talking about training, but I would like to go to the issue of whistleblowing within the police and the fact that when we hear the police say, we're investigating them, we don't trust that there's transparency or that they are actually really being investigated. So is there a way that the police can open up their doors to civil society where we have an idea that these police that have been found culpable are actually being punished? And can there be a system of whistleblowing within that police system where they can rat on each other, say, the way Nima did this was wrong, can I rat on her? Can that be considered for the police?
Well, I think there should be a new sort of internal disciplinary and complaints mechanism, but that must include members of the public, representatives of key civil society groups. Because police cannot be left to investigate itself in that sense, because there's hardly any confidence in that. You see the CRU, the complaints unit of the police, they will, for example, request maybe an inspector to come because there's a complaint against. The inspector will just ignore the instruction, and there's nothing they can do. So it's important that there is more effective internal discipline, and that, you know, for the whistleblowing to work, it has to be externally managed for the police, because that has to be seen as independent and confidential. There's a lot of officers there are lots of officers that I've met that don't like what's happening, but they feel they have no choice. You know, so you see that they are victimized into falling into line, or you just keep quiet and go with the flow. So there are lots of good officers in Nigerian police, and that's a sad thing. Many of them, I've met lots of them that are very good at what they do, but they're swimming in a swamp that is beyond them.
But that's something the private sector can support the police in. So, for example, there's an organization that is the funnel for these whistleblowers, where they know that their identities are protected.
Yes, absolutely.
There's a particular one that was done by Akifadeyi. It's a Flagit application, and I think they've gotten the buy-in of the FRSC, and they've also gotten some police departments to buy in, where you can submit your complaints to Flagit with the name of the officer and the picture of the officer. You're supposed to record, put it in, and they will handle it. And they've been consistent. They've had positive cases of successfully tracing. So the individual, a private individual, can come up with these things. NGOs can come up with these things and design an app or design a website and canvas for the government to adopt it. But we can't just sit down and be thinking they will solve it because it's affecting us more.
Yes, sir. So for me, I've noticed that there is no cooperation between security personnel across the different agencies. We always see them fighting against each other. And I don't know, is there any way you think we can get them to understand that they are actually together? They should be more into cooperation than competition. They are working for the Nigerian people so that we can move ahead.
The difficulty we have in Nigeria is we have too many security silos. At the last count, Nigeria had 21 MDAs that relate to security. That's the largest in Africa. You know, and one of the lessons from after 9/11 was the understanding the fact that you need to rationalize how many security outfits you have. There was information about each of the hijackers in under different security agencies, but they were not talking to one another. So we have a situation in Nigeria where you have, you know, like I said, so many agencies that have been created out of the police, but they were created out of financial imperative rather than security exigency. So we have a situation where each of these silos have become cost centers and empires that have to be protected. So I've had many times DSS say, we're not telling police that, we don't trust them. So they keep intelligence to themselves because they don't trust the police. I've seen police, for example, all the private security agencies in Nigeria, private security firms, they are managed and registered under the civil defense. It's the civil defense that manages them and licenses them every year. Police don't have easy access to that database, because everybody's protecting their own little empire. You know, you see a few years ago why police and FRSC were fighting in the Senate over who should issue license, driver's license. Because everybody, it's about, so rather than cooperating, they are competing. So there are two possible ways out of that. The first one is to rationalize the number of agencies into smaller to merge them back again. Or if that proves difficult, because politics is the heart of doing what's possible, is to create a new, to expand the remit of the SSS, to create a sort of homeland security agency that sits across all of them and by law can demand information across all of them. So that we know there's one place we can go where we will have access to the information everyone has. Right now, you have to call 12 times to get from each of the different agencies.
Let me go on a quick break. When we come back, we'll try to wrap up on this conversation. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. So, as we wrap up, I need to... Let me let Tope go first. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Thank you. You know, there was an information I found out from a high-ranking person within the force, and I feel we should put it out there because it will help give perspective to the protesters that are agitating, that they are shooting at us, is to realize that you can have police stations that do not have tear gas, and they are here. Like, a police station doesn't have tear gas. And if they don't have tear gas, how will they give the police officers tear gas if the entire station doesn't have? And so we need to address these issues that police must come out and say, we don't have these water guns. We don't have rubber bullets. We don't have shields. We don't have shields. So the only way we can protect ourselves is to shoot you. And so it might help the protesters to also feel the impact of what they are doing on the police officer, because when you come and meet them, they shoot. And so it might just help, you know.
I think I should say
Yeah,
the police should join us to protest now that their whole lives are better. And so I wanted to talk about, I feel that there's a gap. You know, this 21 security, you know, MDAs and, you know, that are linked to security that I mentioned, I feel that they were created to continue to widen the elites and the people gap. So because every big man in this country has a police team with him. Every big man in this country, his police team carry the right weapon, they have the right gadgets, the weapon protection. Their uniform looks neat, crisp. The first time I saw a police team that I thought this in America, it must be Hollywood movie, was in Ikeja. They were with the commissioner of police at the time. I was on my way to young. I was looking like this. I couldn't believe, because all the police I'd ever seen in my life were not like that. Why do the people pretend that they don't know that this is happening? A police officer will pick someone of my level and would abuse and, you know, disrespect that person. But the moment you can show a bit of connection, there's a different approach.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, I think it's because largely a lot of our officers, you know, they're looking for favors. Anyone that they feel is in the capacity to help them, they will give you the benefit of the doubt in many ways. It's the nature of how, it's a consequence of what I call the death of meritocracy within the Nigerian police, where it's not so much about how good you are, it's about who you know. And that's historical. That's always been, that's a problem. I mean, we have a situation, for example, where you know, I mean, if you enter the police, you enter either as a general duty officer or as a special duty officer. The special duty officers are like forensic scientists who are there just for that purpose. The rule is that the general duty officers are not supposed to be deployed to anywhere else, frontline. But a governor gets elected, sends a list to the police, IG, and says, look, these are the people I want in my security detail. Half of them are from special duties. And the IG will say, sorry, you can't have them. And the next thing is, I can get you fired if you don't give me what I want. So the man will just allow them to have the special duty. So all our special duty capabilities have been decimated over the years because they are never backfilled, so to speak. So there's so many anomalies going on.
So what you're saying is that, so there's a pyramid within the police. We the people got the bottom of the pyramid. The shaft was left to us. So we are, but we're saying that we can actually have a full remodeling where there's no more a pyramid, but there are now layers of people where they're all probably equipped. But let me now take you to the issue of local policing. We've talked about the fact that there's silos, poor funding, there's too many MDAs. Can local policing solve this problem where it's more secluded to your regions, where you can actually manage and even know the people, and it's not more a force, but it's more like a service to the people? Do you think?
Yes, I mean, community policing, as we call it, can work, but I'm saying the community policing can work even within the current system. All you need to have is community police team or community police unit within the Nigerian police. And for community policing to work, then there has to be certain changes in the operational model of the policing. For example, the idea of just transferring people willy-nilly has to stop.
Right.
Because if you're a community police officer, you walk that beat for years. Everybody know you know the people. But when you get signal every 6 months or every 9 months, moving you all over the place, there's no way you can be in one place long enough to have that kind of impact. So community policing can work if, you know, within the system. We don't need necessarily to say we have state policing necessarily for that to work, because state policing is a different kettle of fish, which I think is only desirable as part of a wholesome restructuring of the nation, but not just within the current federal system.
All right, I think personally we have neglected the police for so long, not just as the government, but even we the individuals. Now, what advice would you give to non-governmental organizations? What sort of support can we give to the police? And also, how do we ensure that consequences for their actions are being enforced? How do we ensure that we see it happen?
Well, I think, first of all, police will be less on the defensive if they feel you're a bit even-handed. My challenge with the Amnesty International and the Human Rights Watch of this world is they can be a little bit naive in some of their reports. You know, they don't reflect the enormity of the challenge the police or even the military face. You know, and it seems they put clearly, well, one can understand maybe a bit more demand on the police than on the other side. The truth is, police are doing a lot with the little they've got, but they don't sing their own praises enough. And I think that, number one, that needs to be fixed. But secondly, there's need for what I call confidence building measure by the police. And that can be done through increased transparency. You know, like, for example, officers that are sacked, you know, don't just put number, 10 officers sacked. Let's see the report.
Yeah, see the names.
You know, let's see the names. Let's see the report.
The pictures.
The ones that are demoted. Let's see the report of the committee or whatever panel that disciplined them. Put all these things in the public domain.
Right.
That will begin to, okay, they are doing these things. You know, there is something, you know, quickly, there's something we need to understand about the psychology of human being. There was a particular city in the U.S. that complained that people, they did a survey of the people, and people said, look, they are not doing anything. They, you know, they are not doing anything. And they brought in a consultant, and the consultant said, okay, this is what you need to do. When do you collect your garbage? They said, at midnight, so that we don't disturb it. I said, no, change your garbage collection to 9 a.m. in the morning. Cause so much rancor on the road. And, you know, and they did a survey a year later. The approval rating has gone up.
Whoa.
Now, they were doing the same thing, but they were doing it when people were not seeing it. So there was a perception that the local government wasn't working. But the moment they now did the daytime, caused all the traffic mayhem when they were carrying the garbage, people, that visibility led to greater approval. And that's what the police need to do. We need to see visibility of what they are doing.
With the SARS that got them visible and got them into trouble? I mean, they were a covert operation. Nobody knew what they were doing.
The problem with SARS is that there was no entry requirement. There was no special training. You know, so really, you can't say you are special. Even the SWAT team you're talking about now has to be specially trained. And what, for example, in regard to SWAT team, I would have thought what the police should do is to actually put a team together that involves civil society groups and publish the curriculum of their training. You know, I mean, if you put it on Google, you can see the curriculum of training of SWAT team in the US. You know, I mean, these things are not secret. You know, nobody says you should give the line item of everything, but let's see that there is training in human rights, training in law, training in other things. It's not just force.
And they don't move them to other departments after a year.
Exactly. So this thing shouldn't be rushed, is what I'm trying to say. Let the training regime be agreed with Nigerians and then proceed to do that training. And in terms of psychological evaluation and integrity testing of police officers, the best practice globally is that you do that at every junction. When they are being recruited, when they are being transferred, when they are being promoted, they do all those testing at those junctions.
To make sure you are still fit for purpose.
Exactly. But that's never done. That's never done.
Thank you so much, Dr. Omole. We love it. We love when you come around because that's fun.
I think we've gotten some information today. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us. He's a security consultant, trainer and strategist to businesses and organizations and governments across Europe, Middle East, and Africa. Dr. Charles Omole, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, ladies. Thanks for having me.
Have a fabulous day. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.